everyone, welcome to the New Thing Challenge 2020. This is our weekly recap time, and I do apologize because I did say that I was going to be coming on here yesterday, and I'm here on Friday instead. So welcome to our weekly recap. This year we have spent our time in the Psalms, so we're memorizing one psalm, one verse each week, 52 weeks throughout 2020, and we're calling it Psalms for Life. And I love it because there's so many of the Psalms, all of the Psalms, so relevant for our lives. They're relevant for what we're going through right now. And the themes that we have been studying every single month have been profoundly timely and relevant for what we are facing in our culture and in our world. And so this is why we called it Psalms for Life. I mean, we had no idea 2020 was going to look like how it has, and yet we do know that life never turns out necessarily how we expect it to. And so there's that for me tuning in on Friday instead of Thursday, because yesterday just didn't look like how I expected it to look. And so you'll notice that I'm coming to you from a different location. I'm normally inside, but I am actually currently in Illinois visiting my family. My mom's birthday is today, and I was able to fly in and surprise her for her birthday. And so I'm sitting outside in the cool Midwest air of fall, and it's just incredible. And so for those of you that are still back in Arizona sweating it out, I'll be back on Sunday and I'll be feeling your pain. But anyway, just wanted to come and hop on here for our weekly recap and share some words of encouragement from Psalm 73. I hope that you have spent some time reading it this week. I encourage you all to do that every single week, not just to memorize the verse that we're looking at each week, but to spend some time reading through the entire psalm where that verse is found, because it adds so much context and so much understanding to the verse that we are choosing to memorize. And so Psalm 73, our memory verse this week, is found in verse 26. But the content of the entire chapter, and the context really, which I talked a bit about in the email that went out on Monday, is the idea that the writer is struggling with envying the prosperity of the wicked. And I want you to think about that. That sounds so maybe foolish at first glance and the first time you hear it, but I think it's far less uncommon than we might realize. When we are staying in our lane and we're running our race and we're being faithful and we're pursuing God and we're chasing after Jesus, and things don't go the way that we would hope them to go, which actually is the way that things happen most often, isn't it? Like, life goes unexpectedly. We have things happen to us that we would never want or dream or hope to happen, and yet we're being faithful and we're pursuing Jesus and we're loving him and we're serving him, and things don't always turn out the way that we would like them to turn out. And yet then we look to the right and the left and we see our neighbors and our friends and people that we know not pursuing the Lord, not running after Jesus, not being found faithful, and yet somehow prosperity seems to find them. And that's hard for us to deal with when that happens, is it not? I mean, and all of us have seen it. All of us have experienced this. And the writer in Psalm 73 is basically starting out and writing throughout the Psalm saying, you know what? I almost lost my way. I was getting so caught up in watching all of those around me prosper, even though they weren't following after Jesus. And I was getting envious of that. I was wanting their prosperity. I was wanting the abundance that was coming into their life, but I wasn't getting it. And I was the one that was doing the right thing. Anybody ever experienced that? You're doing the right thing. You're being faithful. You're walking in obedience. And the blessing that you're hoping for to come, or the favor or the answered prayer, it doesn't show up. At least maybe not in your timing, or not the way that you anticipated it or expected it to happen. And yet you look around you and you see people who don't know the Lord, who don't care about the Lord, perhaps people who are even actively spurning the Lord. And yet prosperity and abundance and blessing seems to overflow in their life, and you wonder why. And so what I love about this psalm is that it's honest. It is so incredibly honest with the struggles that you and I deal with every day. You might not struggle with this every single day, but I imagine at one point in your life you have struggled with it. And I love that about the Psalms, is that they are so incredibly honest. So I love the honesty of this psalm, but I also love how the writer brings it back to faith and truth at the end of the psalm. He wraps it up with these powerful words. And this isn't the last verse in the psalm, but it's close to the end. Our memory verse this week, Psalm 73, verse 26, it says, "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart, my portion forever." I love that. And at first glance, we look at that and we could think, okay, unexpected tragedy may have, befallen this writer, or we might resonate with these words because that's what's happened to us. Unexpected tragedy comes crashing into our lives, or just disaster or hurt or heartache or whatever it is comes crashing into our lives, and then we think my flesh and my heart is failing, and we're crying out to God, and that is so necessary too, and that happens, but that's not actually what was causing the writer of this psalm to struggle so deeply and for his heart to feel like it was failing. It was this grief of looking around and seeing the wicked prospering, and yet he was walking in faithfulness and righteousness to the Lord, and he wasn't seeing that same benefit in his life. So he was struggling with that. But then he comes back to truth and grounds himself and centers himself on gospel, biblical truth, which says, God is the strength of my heart. Not the blessing that I'm after, not the anticipated or hoped for outcome or result of this situation that you're facing, that's not where my strength is going to come from. That's not where my hope is going to be secured. No, my strength comes from God alone. God is the strength of my heart. And then it goes on to say my portion forever. I love the word portion, especially when it's written in scripture, because when you think about your daily portion, what you need to survive, your daily allotment of water, of food, things that sustain your life, the air that you breathe, the sleep that you get, your portion. And we look to all of these things in the natural to fill us and to meet our needs, which of course are necessary. We need to eat, we need to drink, we need to sleep, we need to breathe. But there are other things secondary to that we look to be our portion, to fill our cup with joy, to fill our lives with perceived purpose. And we look to lesser things than the Lord. And the writer here is coming all the way back to the beginning and the truth of his faith and saying, God is my portion forever. If all of these other things fail, if the prosperity of the wicked never comes knocking on my door, if I never receive the prosperity that I'm after or that I desire or the blessings that I feel like I deserve because I've been walking faithfully, if none of that ever comes, he says, God is the strength of my heart and he is my portion forever, meaning he is all that I need. I love this expression. I don't know who necessarily coined it. I've heard it numerous times from several different preachers and authors, but it's the idea that Jesus plus nothing equals everything. Do you believe that? Do you believe that Jesus plus nothing else in this world, Jesus plus nothing actually equals everything? Do you believe that? Because your hope and your joy will be secured if you cling to that truth. That you can say with confidence, God is the strength of my heart. He is my portion forever. If nothing else comes, I will still walk in obedience to God because that's the best path for my life to ever be on. And while the wicked might prosper for now, God sees all, and one day he will set all things right. And the wicked aren't getting away with anything. And I think somebody might need to hear that today. That while for today, in the human constraints of time, it might seem like somebody who's wicked is getting away with something. They're not getting away with anything because God sees all. And one day he will set all things right. And Jesus is more than enough, friends. He is more than enough. And so find hope in that. In your grief and whatever you're facing that is causing you to feel burdened and heavy in your heart. It's causing your heart to feel like it's failing and your strength to feel like it's failing. Cling to this truth today, friends, that Jesus is enough. God is the strength of your heart, and he is your portion forever. I hope this encourages you today and causes you to soar with hope and encouragement throughout the weekend. I love you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of this New Thing Challenge, and I'll see you again next week, hopefully on Thursday.